Welcome to this video on the 15-mark question for IGCSE Computer Science with Cambridge CAIE, and the exam code for this is 0478 or 0984, and it will apply to both of those codes. So the purpose of this first video is to take you through my top tips for the 15-mark question. I'm not going to be doing any walkthroughs in this video, but there will be further videos where I explain and go through some past exam papers. But it's really important before we do that you get to grips with the sorts of things that they're looking for this question. So my first tip is, if you've not been practicing programming while you've been doing this syllabus and you've just been doing the minimum, you don't really understand programming, then I recommend that you just don't do this question at all. Concentrate on getting as many marks as you can on the rest of paper 2. This exam question, the 15 marks are right at the end, and it's meant for the people who have been practicing programming and are really good at programming to shine and to get lots of extra marks to get them the grade 9 and the grade 8, or if you're doing the A to F grading, then the A star. So it might seem quite harsh and you might feel a little bit kind of like, why would I do that? Why would I not even attempt a question? But if it's late in the day and you have not been programming, then just don't do it. Just stop now, stop the video and go and practice the rest of the paper. Okay, tip number 2 is answer what you can. It's not an all or nothing paper question. Yes, there's 50 marks available, but if you can only do part of a question and you think, I can only do a small amount of this, do that small amount, because they will give you marks for anything that you have done correctly. So don't look at the question and think, I can't do any of it. Really break it down and think, can I do what you can, and they will give you marks. And it might not be the 15, but even if it's 4 or 5, it could put you a grade above the one that you were hoping for, and you'll get the grade that you wanted because you attempted this question. My third tip is to answer in one of the following: either pseudocode, Python, Java, or Visual Basic. You must pick one of those and stick to it. Obviously, if you've not learnt one of those programming languages, you're not going to want to use those. But don't mix pseudocode with your chosen language. They don't like it and they will not give you marks for it. So pick one of those and stick to it. Also note that if you use a programming language that isn't Python, Java or Visual Basic, you will not get any marks, and that is clearly stated in the 2026 to 2028 specification. Tip number 4 is to try as many past papers as possible. There is a limit to the type of questions they will ask, and they will tend to stick to algorithms that use one 1D array and a 2D array. They'll also use maximum, minimum, averaging and summing, and quite often they'll use counting as well. So if you practice more and more, you'll get used to the sorts of questions that they ask, and you'll see that they're very formulaic. Tip number 5 is look at the mark scheme, model answer and learn what they're looking for, and familiarise yourself with the way the question is marked. And we're going to do that in a moment after I give you my last 2 tips. So tip number 6, always put comments in or you will lose marks. And if you don't do this, you could come up with the best solution of code ever for that question, but if you don't put comments, you won't get the full 15 marks. And tip number 7, use the bullet points in the question to tick off what you've done. And these are the basis of the mark scheme and the marking that they use. So let's have a look at that, because this is a really important tip for you to get to grips with. Let's have a look at a past paper. So this exam paper was the summer 2025 paper for the UK. And we've got a one-dimensional array. Competitor name contains the names of 25 competitors in a tournament that includes 5 events. Another 2D array contains the points scored by each competitor in the 5 events. This is an extremely common type of question where we have a 1D and a 2D array. And again, I will go through the answer to this in another lesson, but let's just have a quick look here. We can see, as I mentioned in my tips, there is a bullet point list of things that you need to do. So this here is going to be the basis of what you're going to do in your answer. Look at what those bullet points are and you tick them off one by one. So it says take and input valid scores for each competitor in each of the 5 events. Calculate the highest points scored for each event. Output the names of the competitors who receive a medal for the highest points scored. Calculate the highest points scored for the 5 events and output the name of the competitors with the highest points scored in 5 events. So, you can tick them off one by one. And this is a typical question. Like I said, we're taking input, we're validating it. We're going to calculate the highest points scored, and finding the maximum is something that is a very common thing. And it's actually part of the syllabus, the main part of the syllabus. Algorithms, finding the highest of something or the maximum of something is one of their kind of like favourite algorithms to use. So the likelihood of it coming up in future exams is extremely high. So it does say there you must use pseudocode or program code. So program code, it must be one of their authorised languages, which are Python, Java or VB.NET. And if you do it in anything else, you will not get marks. And that's very clear in the syllabus changes for 2026. So it says here as well, you don't need to declare arrays or variables. So normally they would like you to declare variables, but don't do it this time. Just follow it. Even if you think, oh, I'll do it anyway, you're not going to get any marks for that and you will waste time in doing it. So just don't do it. It does also say here, all inputs and outputs must contain suitable messages. So make sure you do that. It's really important to read the question carefully before you attempt it. Let's have a look at the mark scheme then. We won't go into the detail too much, but of this specific question, I mean. Let's have a look at what the marks are available. We've got 2 sections. We've got AO2, AO3. You get a maximum of 9 marks for AO2, a maximum of 6 marks for AO3, and that is laid out later. But as you can see, those bullet points, the requirements, this is what they're looking for. Have you done requirement 1? Have you input and validated the points for each event, for each competitor? Nested iteration, iteration, input, output. So they're looking for loops and input and output. Have you found and output the name of the competitors with the highest score using nested iteration, output and selection? So remember, selection is if or else. Total the score for each competitor. Have you found and output the name of the highest score for all 5 things? So in essence, this is just repeating those bullet points here that were, where it says write a program. So again, you're going to use that write a program bullet points to form the basis of your answer. If we have a look at the 15-mark question answer here, they've obviously got their sort of model answer here. What they do tend to do is give a very thorough answer. They have actually declared the arrays here, even though they said don't do it. But yes, and it does say they don't need to declare arrays. But it is helpful to see sort of what you should have done or how these arrays were. And then they have listed requirement 1. So we've got a for loop there, requirement 2, and then requirement 3. So again, those requirements are really important. But the key thing is not so much what is the model answer here, because we'll practice that in future lessons, but it is actually looking at how have you answered this question. So for applying your knowledge for a maximum of 9 marks, to get those 9 marks, you should have used a range of programming techniques used. Is it appropriate to the problem? All criteria stated has been covered using appropriate programming techniques, and check the list of techniques needed, which is further up in that requirements. And again, they're looking for, have you used a loop? Have you used if statements, etc. And then the data structures chosen are appropriate. The data structures used store the data as required in the scenario. So as long as you've got, you're using those arrays that they've asked you to use, and you've used a loop to do an answer, and provide an answer to those bullet points, you will get maximum of 9 marks. And obviously you can see here, if you get 0, if you haven't put anything, you're not going to get any marks. But like I said earlier, if you've done some of the answer, at least one programming technique is used. So do what you can, even if you just do the input or output, you will get marks for that. And it might only be 1 to 3 marks, but at least you've got those 1 to 3 marks, which could give you a grade higher than you originally thought. And then in the maximum of 6 marks, we can see here that in order to get the 6 marks for A03, you need to fully comment the programme. So put those comments in, because you can get, even if you get a few comments in, the programme seen with some relevant comments, you could get 3 to 4 marks for that. Suitable identifiers, that means variables. Make sure you name your variables correctly. The programme is in logical order. The solution is accurate. The solution meets all the requirements given in the question. So you can get 6 marks if you do everything. But even if you do most of the requirements, but not all of them, then you'll still get marks. So, like I said, I keep saying, do what you can. That's one of the most important things. So here are my 7 tips again. I hope you find this video helpful. Please like and subscribe, and there's going to be some more videos coming up which are going to be looking at these specifically and going through the model answers that they have in the papers.